All right, everyone. I want to welcome you to Collaboratory. I'm so excited to see so many faces that I know and love, and to talk about resilience at work for our first Lightbulb series event of the year. I want to open with a couple thank yous because I always love to show appreciation and gratitude. We have an incredible amount of our board members in this room who we could not do this work with and who inspire me and support me even with my craziest of ideas. So if you are on the Collaboratory board, could you please stand up to be recognized? Thought Gail was hiding. Thank you so much. And I know we have a couple of our elected officials in the room. We have our councilwoman. Oh, Gail, let's make it sure that Gail knows. Hi, Gail. Our immediate past chair, Gail Markham. We have Councilwoman Diana Geraldo. Where are you? For the city. Thank you for hiding. We appreciate that. And Liston Bouchette, I believe it. Yes, sir. Hello, hello. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. I know just personal and professionally, Diana, I really appreciate you being here and for all the support that you give to Collaboratory. The biggest thank you before I pass it over and introduce our incredible group is to everyone in this room. I have now been here for 2 years at Collaboratory. And thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting. I say that because, thanks, Sean. Thank you for that standing applause. I say that because the Lightbulb series has been something we have been really trying to evolve in my time here, and our messaging and building relationships and bringing our community back in, that is the reason we're here. The reason we're here is everyone here in this room to convene conversations, talk about innovative ways of doing things. The topic for this 3 series that we have this year are actually aligned with the causes that we are championing as part of our collective work and our coalitions. So workforce and education, health and wellness, and home, which is really, really cool. We will have national experts, regional, and statewide experts to talk through, including so many cool panelists you're gonna hear from today. The Florida Chamber, sorry, Christina, is our data partner. So all of the incredible data we share with our partners in this room and beyond to try to solve some of our biggest issues really come from our partners at the Florida Chamber. So trying to connect the dots and make this a little understandable for our community is really important. And I just wanna really, really appreciate everyone in this room because so many of you have supported me, have supported Collaboratory, have been super honest, and even though I know that not everyone loves that, I really do, to help us get to a point where I think we're going to talk about our work and how we're all impacted in a really positive, strategic way moving forward. So huge round of applause for everyone in this room before I kick it off to Frank, please. Okay, our partners in this, who I appreciate greatly, are the Edison Awards, and Frank Bonafilia is going to say a few remarks and tell you about his incredible event. But this partnership is really near and dear to us because it's about innovation. We are obviously here as a community foundation to support our partners today, which means the work that they're doing in workforce and education in the here and now, and then innovating to try to change the systems that they work in the future. The partnership with Edison is spot on to help us get there. So I want to give the mic over to Frank to help him tell you about the Edison Awards and how this partnership works, and I really hope everyone enjoys the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, beautiful people. It's so exciting to be here today. I think this is our 8th Lightbulb series that the Edison Award has sponsored. It started off as an idea, and there's probably maybe 15, 20 people in the room, and now look at it today. Absolutely amazing. Hands together for Dawn and the Collaboratory, and certainly Kristen Collins as well. Kristen, we would not be here without you, so thank you for leading this. For those of you who don't know, I'm Frank Bonafilia. I'm the CEO of the Edison Awards. We've been in Fort Myers for about 6 years. Our program is 39 years old, so really happy to be alive and here and continuing to recognize innovation around the world. April 15th and 16th is this year's event. Please mark it on your calendars. We'll have some of the top innovators from around the world fly into Fort Myers for 3 days of an immersive experience. We have both a afternoon ticket that focuses more on kind of the conversations on where the future is moving to. We'll have leading experts. We'll have iconic world-class innovators that you know by the first name basis in attendance. But most importantly, I think, is we're going to really show the world what Fort Myers is made of. Not just your history, which is beautiful, but how are we building the bridge together to the future, which makes this partnership with the collaboratory so special. So please look at our website, edisonAwards.com. I know I've met a lot of you. Hopefully we've had an impact in some of the work that you're doing. But tonight we're willing to hear the story of our guests as well as our speakers. So I'm going to hand this off to the moderator for this evening. Thank you again, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you so much. All right, excellent. Good evening, everyone. So nice to see everybody. What a great looking crowd. I'm Christina Park, and I'm so honored to be able to facilitate the conversation this evening. I'll tell you, this is going to be hard for me because I usually like to move around. I got this beautiful new piece of hardware with my brand new ArthurX products installed freshly within the last month, so I'll be seated for our conversation today. But I'm really looking forward to this panel. Welcome to the Edison Award Lightbulb Series. We are thrilled to be here at the Collaboratory in Fort Myers. This space is designed to spark ideas, collaboration, and community innovation. That's what tonight's all about. So our topic for this evening is the future of work, future of work in Florida, resilience at work. This couldn't be more relevant or more urgent. We're living through a moment of extraordinary change, from how we educate and prepare our students, to how we recruit, retain, and grow talent, and how technology is reshaping nearly every job that we know it as it is today. I'm Christina Park. I have the privilege of serving as the president and CEO for the Greater Naples Chamber. In this role, I work with our business leaders, with our educators, and our community partners across Collier County to build a stronger, more sustainable economy, one that creates economic opportunity for all. I was invited to moderate tonight's panel discussion because our organization is so closely aligned with the valuable work being done here at the Collaboratory under the fantastic leadership of Dawn. We're both committed deeply to focusing on workforce development, helping employers like you meet the needs of today and prepare your workforce for tomorrow's realities. Like many of you, I've seen firsthand how our communities have to balance growth, innovation, and inclusivity to stay relevant. So our conversation tonight is not theoretical, it's real, and it's about how we use data-driven approaches coupled with future-focused insights to ensure that Florida remains a place where people can live, learn, and work successfully, no matter how quickly our world changes. So as an outline for our time together this evening, for the next hour or so, we're going to hear from our fantastic panel of experts. We'll conclude around 7 o'clock, and we're going to have a half an hour available for all of you to come up and interact directly with each of our panelists and make sure all your questions are answered. So before we dive in, I want to get a quick sense of the room tonight, because we're going to talk a lot about AI. On one end of the spectrum, you may think, AI makes me a little nervous. I'm not really sure that I understand it. On the other end, I'm pretty confident I use it every single day. So show of hands, who would say it's new, it's unfamiliar, and a little bit scary to me? Anybody in the room consider themselves a novice? All right, okay. Don't be ashamed, that's why we're here, right? How about I'm learning more every day, but I wouldn't call myself an expert quite yet? The majority, all right. And then how many of you are using AI very regularly every day in your personal and professional life? Kyle, you better raise your hand. You're our AI expert tonight. So that's helpful, thank you. It's really good to know where we collectively stand as we approach this conversation. And what's interesting is what the mix of comfort levels in this room is really reflective for our entire state of Florida, right? We're learning, we're adapting, we're figuring out how to integrate these tools into the way we work, and that's where resilience comes in. So to help explore that, we've got a panel of fantastic experts this evening coming from very different angles. So if our panelists will come on and join us on the stage. Their bios are in your program, so I won't read those to you.
Sorry.
We're going to make sure that they tell us a little bit about ourselves. Do you need this mic or yours is working?
I think we're good.
Okay, here you go. All right, so we have Guido Minaya. He is the CEO and Chief Learning Officer of Minaya Learning Global Solutions, a global voice in workforce learning and talent development. We have Christina Donahue, Prosperity Director at the Florida Chamber Foundation. She's leading statewide efforts to create pathways to prosperity for all Floridians. And lastly, Kyle Morris. He's the CEO and co-founder of Strata 52, driving innovation and technology solutions that help organizations adapt and thrive. So tonight, we are going to explore how education, innovation, and collaboration intersect to reduce barriers and build resilience for individuals and our state as a whole. Let's get started. All right, so let's kick it off. Tonight's topic is resilience at work. What does that mean to you? I'll let each of you answer. And how does that show up in your corner of Florida's economy? Guido, would you like to get us started?
I'll get started. Well, thank you, Kristen. It is an honor to be here along with this distinguished panel. My career has predominantly been focused on helping large companies, multinationals with workforce development. And for me, resilience is about adapting to our market conditions, the changing economy. And what's been interesting, that although many of us have seen changes throughout our careers, and it just continues to accelerate, right? The changes accelerate. And this is all pre-AI, right? So now we're in this new world, and so resilience requires us to be highly attentive to not only our sector changes, our communities changes, and to be able to, in essence, fly the plane while we're re-engineering it in a very careful way. I think it's one of the most exciting times, if not the most exciting time, to be able to be an entrepreneur, a business leader, an organizational leader, because now we're going to have so many additional tools to help us with our resiliency going forward. That helps.
Excellent. Thank you, Guido.
Sure.
Christina, how does resilience show up in your corner of the world?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me join this panel. I'm very excited to be in this community of thought leaders and just so appreciative of Collaboratory for being a partner along with the Florida Chamber, but also looking at workforce development issues across not only this area and the 5 counties that are served under Collaboratory, but across the state, and also under the Prosperity Initiative. So my work, I was telling the fellas earlier that I may come from a kind of a human element when we talk about workforce in the sense of I come from the nonprofit sector, so I've had the privilege of really walking alongside folks who've really gone through some really incredibly difficult adversities and sometimes egregious challenges. Worked anywhere from mental health and addiction recovery through healthcare to child abuse and neglect. So I will always come from that vantage point. But what I will tell you about resiliency, so with that in mind, resilience is also it is a human element. Sometimes our families are going through really difficult situations, well-intended families. I think sometimes when we think about prosperity and folks not really kind of meeting their full potential, we kind of put the blame on them. But my initiative focuses on what are those barriers, not only across the state, but down to the zip code level that are affecting people, particularly children, from having the opportunities of economic mobility and advancement. And we're going to talk a little bit more about, we look at data, we're investing in that kind of research. So it's really exciting that a chamber at the state level is having some of these difficult conversations and is actually challenging the business community to step up and be part of the resolution. So that's what resilience means to me.
Thank you, Kyle.
I don't know, let's see. Yeah, all right, we're in. So admittedly, they gave us these questions beforehand, and I did read them. And I honestly hadn't thought about what resilience means to me until I saw that question, and I was like, let me think about that one. So I have some sort of educated answer, right? And I couldn't help but think about Florida in general, and especially this area. So I live in Longboat Key, Florida. And last year, we were all ravaged by hurricane season. So to me, that stood out as resilient, right? And resilience in this region is something that has become second nature. And when I think about resilience itself, I ended up recalling, does anybody watch the US version of The Office? All right, so I'm going to butcher the quote, but there is a quote, and I think it was in the season finale, or the series finale, when Andy said that I wish I knew I was in the good old days before they ended, right? And that's pretty poignant when you think about resilience as well, because I don't think that you realize how resilient you are until you're reflecting on the past, right? So for me, it's important to distinguish between what is resilience and what is endurance, okay? And I think that when I think about the weather conditions of last year, and all of us crossing our fingers this year that we wouldn't be impacted, when I think about it in business, it's easier to just endure. It's easy to just put your head down, do the work, get it done. But if you want to transform businesses, or you want to transform yourself, or you want to transform your life, the fuel for this resilience is, and it's corny to say, but it's love. Because if you are doing things for the love of what you do, the love of your family, the love of your team, then you react differently. And to me, that's really important to realize that when you're recruiting team members, that love what they do, because you're going to get an exceptional result, rather than that workhorse that's just going to GSD. We all know that acronym, right? So for me, resilience is important, but it is something that is more of a muscle in my mind. So as long as you are, or we are, realizing that resilience is fueled by love, then it makes building that culture inside of your business a lot easier, because you're looking for love, not like the index as to whether or not that person has the capability to be resilient, right?
Sure.
Because you won't know until you're in the fire.
Nice.
Well, thank you. Thank you to each of you. Different perspectives, obviously different approaches. Let's start with you, Christina, talking at the state level. So what I love about the Florida Chamber is I'm a total data nerd. A lot of people get put to sleep by this stuff at night, and I get really excited about data. Florida Chamber has some amazing data, and so, right, if you can't, how do you know you've moved it if you're not measuring it? Sure. Talk to us about some of the actual, put some numbers to some of what we're talking about tonight.
Oh, okay, and I did bring some notes, because, I'm not like this guy.
Just blah, blah.
No, we have a ton of data, so just know if I don't share something that you're eager, you can always connect with me after, and we've got so much. I've got really amazing data and analysts that work for us at the Florida Chamber, so just wanted to say that. But really, let's talk about, just put some context around the subject that we're here around the workforce tonight. So, when we talk about the future of work, obviously, it's really about opportunity. And so the Florida Chamber, we are out there, our mission is to advocate particularly for the business community, so that Florida is, our goal would be, Florida would be number one from an economic standpoint, but also the quality of life, right? So we are aiming to constantly be the best that we can be. Florida right now is number 15 global GDP. We are trying to move that by 2030 as part of our 2030 blueprint to be number 10. So we've got some ways to go, but that shows you Florida's a big deal. We have 23.5 million folks that call Florida home, and by 2030, we're going to have another 2.7 million people coming. So out of those, let me tell you, so out of that 23.5 million, currently we have 10 million people who are working. 10 million is an important number, because that is the population, the total population for about 40 states across the country. So again, if that gives some perspective of what Florida does, it matters. It matters to global GDP. I know it matters to your initiatives, your work, especially if you're in the nonprofit sector, if you're a philanthropist, or if you're a business owner. So those are the things that we look at routinely. And again, we have all kinds of data that's free and accessible, that you can always access, and I'll make sure that you have those tools. But let me tell you, now we've talked state level, let's talk about, and I just pulled some information for Lee County, but in Lee County, we're going to need about 77,000 new jobs by 2030. So if you think about that, what is that going to look like? What's that landscape? And so as a business owner, or as, as somebody that, obviously a developer, you're wondering, okay, are these folks coming? Do we need to upskill? So those are some of the things that we're trying as an organization to help paint that picture and give you data so that policymakers, community leaders, nonprofits, educators, you're all working in the same direction. I know all of us are doing really great work, but sometimes we get stuck in our silos. And we have board of directors that are telling us, well, this is the direction we need to go. But if we're not looking at things from a really data-driven approach, we can really go down some areas that just won't get us to the goals that we want to meet. And I'll, again, touch back on poverty, because, again, prosperity is very much near and dear, and that's the initiative that I focus on, we need those 77,000 employees, but now we've got 714,000 children living in poverty across our state. That's 16.9% of children. What is that going to mean in 5, 10, 15 years if they don't have the opportunity? And if any of us, we are in education, or our parents, we know that having kids and being able to expose them to opportunity oftentimes is an expensive venture. So those are some of the things that we're looking at as well at the Chamber. The last point I want to make on that is, again, these are statewide numbers, but we really want our local communities to understand what's happening all the way down to the zip code level. So we've got county metrics, but also we've got over 100 data points all the way looking at affordable housing, access to education, transportation. So all the way down to the zip code level. So I'm happy to share that with you later. Sorry. You said you like data. Sorry.
I love data.
That was great.
I could talk data all day. So this helps us capture and understand the current state of kind of where we're sitting, right? And so we're experiencing some job gaps. We're looking at a retirement crisis where there's more leaving the workforce than there is entering the workforce. And it's time, we got to get ready for tomorrow. So Guido, tell us a little bit about your background in education and how you think twofold. One, how is education going to change? I have a 5-year-old, and I'm so fascinated talking to him about what my child's experience is going to be like versus what mine was. And then secondly, what do you think are some tools and resources? How will technological advancements help with this population that she's referring to in poverty?
Surely. Yeah, and as I mentioned, this is such an exciting time. And one of the quotes I heard recently is, this is the most exciting time to be a 5-year-old. I mean, if you think about it, we went from the industrial age, right, to agrarian, industrial, information age. Now we're in the intelligence age. And in the intelligence age, it's human intelligence augmented by artificial intelligence. So how does that play out in K-12, in education, in our lifetime, right? Our K-12 system is a pipeline, again, that was designed for factory workers, to get you through and all that stuff. But when you look at it, kindergarten readiness. If you do well with kindergarten readiness, you have a better chance of doing your 3rd grade reading scores. 3rd grade reading scores, you do well there, you've got a good possibility of graduating high school. 8th grade math, you do well there, good possibility of going to college, right? And that's how our system is set up, right? It's set up by the grade level, by time. So what does AI give us? I've been following two structures. One is the Alpha School. The other one is Primer, and both very interesting. Alpha School works more on K-12, Primer on K-8. But Mackenzie Price from Alpha, her view is AI will do for education what the microscope did for science, right? And what does that mean? That means learning analytics, data analytics is going to be so precise. There's one example of a high school student from Alpha. She went through Alpha for the last several years, taking her SAT, prepping for her math SAT scores, her math SAT test. She kept getting a 720. And that's not a bad score, right? With Alpha and their AI tutor, they were able to detect that she was missing third grade math concepts. The AI system that they have, the AI tutor, was able to work through that gap with her. 760 on her SAT. So I think what's available to us and we're going to evolve into is how do we leverage this learning analytics to make, definitely our K-12 students beyond what we experience in K-12, but even for each of us, what's the data that might help us become better in our roles, in our careers? And that's why it's so exciting. Will education change? Absolutely. Alpha's an example. Alpha has an academic year down to 20 to 30 hours. You can complete one academic year in 20 to 30 hours, right? How did they organize this? Their school day for the academic part done by AI tutors, 2 hours long. You'll do your academic work and your homework in 2 hours. They can't bring the kids back at 10:30 in the morning, right? So the rest of the time, they work on life skills, on collaboration skills, critical thinking skills, creativity, innovation. And the first group of students just completed high school last year. All of them got into their first choice universities. And the difference is when somebody's gotten into Penn, gotten into Stanford, gotten into Harvard, they figured that they made it. These students not only have made it, but they love learning. The Alpha motto is you should love learning more than you love going on vacation. You should love school more than you love going on vacation, right? So yeah, that's the promise of what might be available to our kids. Now, is that going to mean a major transformation and a reinvention? Yes, but fortunately, we have some models out there that are proving it out. So hopefully that helps.
I love it. And apparently if they're getting their school year done in 20 to 30 hours, they'll have a lot more time for vacation.
Right.
That's really quick, right? So Kyle, your work, tell us a little bit about your company. You are the intersection of the human talent and technology. Talk to us a little bit about how you do what you do and what you're seeing out there.
Sure. So I do want to touch on one thing too. One of our first clients that we brought in at Strata 52 was a startup. It was actually just a guy with an idea, and that's how they always start, right? And this was an individual who had just sold his ed tech startup, and he reached out to us because he said, I think I want to build something in the AI space. Don't know what it is, but I've got tons of connections, and I know how ed tech works right now. And we went out and I went into we interviewed a whole bunch of counselors in the California region to figure out what is the mousetrap that he should build, that he should spend his time on. And really what we ended up honing in on is this fact that the typical counselor to student or student counselor ratio is 400-to-1, and the typical counselor spends 15 minutes a year with a student. So what we would ask these counselors is all right, we get it that you guys spend the majority of your time with the course correcting students. And what really stood out, and that startup's name is Unified Track. We're in Techstars right now. I ended up getting equity in the company, and so I'm a co-founder. So it's been really cool, and to see the trajectory of that. The platform's live and so on. But what was interesting about those conversations is that when we ask counselors what makes great students great, the answer really surprised me. And it wasn't because of the internal drive or that student had the secret sauce. It was they had involved parents. Every single time when we asked that, they said it's parental involvement, parental involvement, parental involvement. So I think that from an administrative level, that there is low-hanging fruit in the near term. Instead of revolutionizing or relying on the upheaval of the educational system countrywide, a lot of these administrators are living in pivot table hell, where they're trying to figure out how do they get data out of the student information system and create a pivot table and then put it into some other type of tool so they can see the insights, and why are they spending 3 weeks on that? And how do they make actionable decisions based on that? So there's a ton of low-hanging fruit in terms of opportunity to simulate parental involvement. And it's sad to say, but we aren't going to be able to go out and change parental behavior, especially with all the distractions, right? So it's another story. I think that there is a low-hanging fruit that we're going to see here, and it's not necessarily going to be unified track, but I think that there's a lot of startups that are tackling that exact problem. So back to what I actually do before I go on another tangent. My company, Strata 52, is a business that gets hired by companies that want to answer this question of how do I integrate AI in my operations. And the way that we do that is basically in 3 different categories. They either, and these are larger companies, so let's say billion-dollar companies, they want somebody to sit on their side of the table. They want somebody that is not going to sell them anything. They want somebody to just sit there, and as you're evaluating the $1 million proposal from Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, they want you to sit there and be the voice of reason. So they're looking for that subject matter expert in AI. So that's one service. The other service that we offer is AI transformation. So it's more workshopping and trying to figure out what is your roadmap for the next year. How do you build out your AI policies so that way your employees know what they should and should not integrate or put into ChatGPT. And all these other tools. And then the third is more of a done-for-you service. And that's genuinely at this stage, even though there's a lot of hype in AI, what CEOs or the C-suite can answer is which department do you think that could be streamlined with AI? And they'll be able to answer that question. But what they can't answer you is what should you be doing with AI? But they'll be able to say, you know what, marketing seems a little bloated. So that's more of a done-for-you service. So what's interesting about the industry that I'm in, and I know I'm talking too long.
You're good.
I can
I'll
feel
cut
it.
you off.
What I can say about this industry is it's very frothy, being an AI consultant. Okay, there's a lot of ChatGPT experts that became ChatGPT experts because they spent too much time talking to ChatGPT. And there's a lot of snake oil being sold out there, and that's fine. You know, we all need help. But there is an incredible opportunity as hopefully there's people who end up watching this that are trying to explore some sort of entrepreneurial endeavor, and they have some sort of subject matter expertise. That right there is absolutely gold. And the reason is because there are so many people that have some super specialized knowledge and have an interest with tinkering with AI, and if you can marry those two, oh my gosh, you have something super special. Myself, I'm more of a generalist, which means I don't go deep on much, so then I look for talent to go deep in certain areas. But there's an incredible opportunity out there to write the manual for AI transformation for specific industries and for what is coming in the future, which is what I call automation support. Because as you're building out all these AI tools and you have all these interconnected systems, you're going to need to be able to support those when they break. And who's going to do that? Right now in the industry, IT is allergic to AI. They say that's not technology, that's operations. And then operations says, well, that's finance. It's saving money, right? So there's this whole not it game that's happening right now, even though we're seeing all this hype. So.
Thank you for that. My marketing manager's in the front row winking at me right now. My job's good, right? Of course. And we are going to come back to governance and policy because I think that's an important part of our discussion today. But I do want to go back to talking about the structural social barriers here that we were touching on at the beginning. What are some social barriers that keep Floridians from participating fully in our changing economy, and how do we address that? Christina, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'd be happy to start. Excuse me. So again, under the Prosperity Initiative, we take a look at the 10 root causes of poverty. We call it the Florida model. We've coined that term, and that looks at access to quality health care, safe neighborhoods for our families, housing, attainable. Sometimes when we say affordable housing, again, we've had to be very careful. Sometimes people think one thing. When we're talking about attainable housing, that's for all. When we start looking at numbers, we really see that, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the Alice household terminology, but these are your everyday folks. These are your teachers. These are, folks that are working for government entities, and they're 1 or 2 paychecks from really being in a financial crisis. And that is becoming just a reality for every community across the state. And so we are definitely looking at those. So, and I think I just lost my train of thought because I will just go off on a tangent. Let me bring me back.
Talking about our social barriers,
Yes.
just structurally how.
So again, but oftentimes when we have not only social barriers, if we have rural communities, busing systems, these are things when people can't get to work, that affects obviously their livelihood. We also take a look very closely at giving folks access to living close to their jobs. You guys are in a very, growing community. You recognize that property and real estate has increased exponentially in certain areas. And when you have people kind of moving out further from their day-to-day jobs, that starts to put a burden, especially if that mom can really only go to work from 7:30 a.m., but has to be in car line at 2:30 because you know what? In her neighborhood, there is not an after-school program. And if there is, oh my gosh, it is way out of budget. So you start looking at all of these nuances. And so I'm hoping I'm answering your question, but this is really what, again, we start looking at the data and some of these obstacles that our families face and ultimately how that affects our employers. Because it is, you are driving the economy, our businesses. So I'll stop there and turn it over to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
So structure, there's a report by the Brookings Institute that's done on an annual basis on AI readiness. And it looks at metros across the country and ranks them, right? They look at 3 pillars. Talent, are you developing your AI talent? They look at your innovation capacity. Do you have small businesses like the one that Kyle works with that are actually developing innovative AI-related solutions? And then you've got inclusion and how are we including all of the community in this, not just one part of the community, right? So those are the 3 pillars that Brookings looks at. Then based on that, based on how we did in Southwest Florida or how Tampa or Miami did or how San Francisco did, it'll put you into one of 5 categories, right? Emerging. You're really not there, can't really see a lot, but you made the map, right? Then you've got the next category, developing. Okay, you're beginning to formulate a plan, right? Then you've got scaling. Okay, now you're developing some assets. You're working with your research universities. You've got tech-oriented solutions happening. And the final one is catalytic. You're like a San Francisco, a Bay Area. Believe it or not, Miami. The Miami area is close to that. We're in the emerging, right? We're in the first category. And what I like about that is that it shows us why we're there. Now, this is a 2025 report, probably based on 24 data, right? But it shows us why we're there. Can we change it? Absolutely, yes. And so, but it's good to know what your grade is and why, because now we'll be able to make some of those shifts in that structural ranking that we presently have.
And can you touch on, I don't know if you can tease that about what we're taking a look at here in Southwest Florida to help increase that competency score?
Sure. I mean, since we've known about the Brookings report for quite a while, we started looking at, all right, well, who's at, category 3, category 4? And in many cases, they have an AI hub, right? An AI hub. An AI hub is a coordinated collaboration between your superstar organizations, FGCU in our case, FSW, the Collaboratory, SBDC, county government, the EDO, And really, how do we all see what the gaps are? We've been taking inventory of the resources that already exist. They're all separate resources, but how can we organize them in a way where we can tell a small business owner, a nonprofit leader, these are resources already available to you, and here's how you access them. It might be, here's a service provider that can assist you in making that leap to optimization or transformation. So that's what the AI Hub, we're exploring how we organize that for Southwest Florida, and we're not far off before we're able to take some next steps.
That's exciting. Stay tuned. Kyle, did you want to weigh in at all on the social barrier comment? If not, I've got an automation question for you.
You do? I could do a short one. From a social barrier standpoint, one of the things that I'm genuinely afraid of for the region is the amount of retiring or hoping to retire business owners that are operating a business in the $2 to $3 million abyss. And it's an abyss because private equity does not want to buy you. And it is a thing that throws off to the business owner a couple $100,000 a year, you're making good money, right? But a lot of these individuals don't have a succession plan. And it's not because of poor planning, it's just because maybe it's generational. Maybe it's that the talent doesn't seem to care enough. They didn't attract that talent that they could pass this business off onto. And what I'm afraid of is a lot of these business owners that they've gotten used to the cash flow, and they've kind of come to the conclusion that they're going to work till the day that they die, and I'm afraid of that churn. And on the inverse of that, I think there's an incredible opportunity. And when we think about the AI Hub and we think about AI and automation, and we think about this ability to create that Venn diagram, I think there's a really incredible opportunity for the community to come together and solve the underemployment problem as it relates to younger individuals that are more technologically adept because they grew up with Facebook, right? And the 65-year-old construction worker who's still breaking his back that operates his business with a flip phone and his invoices stuffed in his visor, but he does $3 million a year. I think that there's a massive opportunity for those younger individuals that are a little lost. We've all been lost, right? When we were, at least I was. Still am a little bit. But when you're searching for purpose, I think there's an ability to stage this churn problem as an opportunity for purpose for the younger generation.
Thank you for that. So when I sit in your seats and watch panels like these, the consistent message I always walk away with is AI is not going to replace my job. Is that true?
AI can replace everybody's job, in my opinion. Not everybody's, but I think that there's a narrative that there's some messaging right now, which is interesting to me, about how AI and automation, we are going to integrate that in our business because we want you to focus on high-value strategic work, right? Well, we want you to stop watching cat videos, and we want you to stop spending that Friday putting together that report that could be done automatically, right? So I do wonder what's going to happen, and I see this play out right now, where you have individuals whose daily life is disrupted. And I'm seeing two different areas. I'm seeing one area where you have the individuals who are adept enough at these tools and they're automating their jobs themselves, and then they kind of like quietly quit, and then they don't tell anybody. Awesome. And then they get another job, and then they get 3-4 different jobs that are paying them $120,000 a year, and they're living. Okay. So that's one area. The other area is when you have individuals or companies that bring in companies like mine, and we go in and analyze their operations and then remove the soul-sucking work, the copying and pasting data between systems, the every Friday report that I mindlessly do. You can remove those with AI workflows. You can remove those with software solutions that might not even be AI. It might be just like if-then statements. But what happens is like, there's a hope that people will they will want to focus on strategic work. But what I see is a lot of individuals, they fill in that time with other mindless tasks. And I think that there's going to be a general, there's going to be a general, in general, there's going to be, the gig is going to be up. And there is going to be a narrative shift where AI is replacing jobs. I think in general, the way that we need to think about it is not from a fear-mongering standpoint. I would think about it more from like this is the old way to build a business, and here's the way that businesses are going to be run in this AI era. So it's more of an organizational chart shift, more so than AI is going to do everybody's job, in my opinion.
I appreciate that. So Guido, from early childhood through lifelong learning, how are we evolving to prepare our workforce for what's next?
How are we evolving to prepare our workforce for what's next? Well, again, many of our structures, our institutions, our K-12, our higher ed institutions, and even our own companies, right? We're evolving. We're evolving on a daily basis. We're learning. And so there are models that are working well that we can point to, but it's going to take a shift for public education to move in this direction. Maybe there's going to be some factors that allow us to accelerate that. The benefit of public education is you've got it structured in a way where everybody goes to the same location for these many hours. Now, what do we do within those hours? In higher education, how are we going to? You might be able to get your PhD in half the time, or get 2 PhDs. So how is AI going to impact those structures? I'd say that for all of us, we just need to start with being more AI literate, finding ways that we can optimize our own roles, and then helping co-create. This is the best time in the world to be able to co-create something with a potential small business owner, with a small school, with a larger school. We are in that transition state. And the only way that I've learned to handle those situations for myself is learn as much as you can, try as much as you can. And with that, you'll end up with solutions that become valuable to you and to your workplace and to your organization.
And we've just scratched the surface, right? We're at the very
Absolutely.
beginning of all the possibilities that exist for AI. So Christina, how is your operation changing how they do business? Because if we're going to be the leaders, we've got to adapt more quickly.
Yeah, so when it comes to AI specifically, so I will tell you the Florida Chamber is really looking at this as an opportunity, kind of like what you talked about, trying not to look at it like a threat, although they did send us a policy that we had to sign about how we use AI. No, that was just a funny joke. But I will tell you, so we have just recently launched an AI Institute. I don't have a lot of details on all that's involved, but what this group is doing out of our enterprise is really looking at how AI is being integrated, particularly with some of our largest corporations, some of the benefits, some of the the disadvantages, the hurdles, so that way we can again continue to be part of those conversations, convening around what best practices, particularly as it trickles down to our mid to small business owners. I will tell you the other aspect of this is that we are wanting AI to obviously help increase, obviously, the workforce momentum. So what are the opportunities? So we'll start taking a look at those, but really that has to come from our business community. The more that we know how businesses are thinking about implementing AI, how it's going to affect their workforce, what are the skills that they need, that takes it down to our level, so that way the chamber, when we are talking with our CTE, kindergarten through 12th grade, and post-secondary, folks, they know what's happening. Again, it's trying to break down those silos in terms of the expectations. Mark Wilson, my president and CEO of the chamber, he likes to tell a story. I'm not going to tell the story. I told him I was not going to tell the story because it's so good. I think about the restaurant. Okay, I can't do it. But I will. The gist of the story, because he's a very good storyteller, is that sometimes, if you're it's a restaurant story. If you're bringing everybody to a restaurant and you order the same thing, you're not going to have the same experience. You like vegan, you're dairy free, you have a nut allergy, on and on. But if we go to the restaurant and you get to order what you want and it's prepared exactly the way you want it, you're going to be like, that was the best damn steak I ever had, et cetera. So that is kind of, when Mark shares that story, that's what he wants to hear from employers. He wants to hear, what are the needs? How are we going to upskill? And that way, again, we can work with our educators and our partners to make sure that we're going to put we're going to upskill, or we're going to make sure that those youth have that skill set. So I'm sorry, once again, I went way, way beyond.
That's great. Guido, please.
Yeah, in the corporate arena, in the large corporations, we went from, I had training centers in Brazil, Miami, Mexico, Argentina, and we had, big training centers. I had like maybe 30 instructors, and it was interesting because we knew that if the right students came to class, we could get them everything they needed to know. Then the world changed for us in 2005, right? With believe it or not, interactive broadcast satellite was one of the first technologies to allow us to leverage technology. Then, of course, e-learning. We shifted our instructors that were there on a stage, ready to present, to facilitators. And we actually had to create an instructor excellence program that transitioned them from a teacher to a facilitator. Now, what is Alpha and what is Primer doing? Those teachers, because the AI tutors are doing all the academic work, those teachers transition to mentors and coaches. The tech is maybe 10%. Those teachers are really what is inspiring students to want to learn, to want to find their why. And that's the shift. So are we doing away with the teacher role? Yes. Are we creating this new role that is even more valuable? Yes. And I think as we find that we're going to change many of our industries, we're going to find how those prior roles, those prior team members can transition into a much more valuable component of the organization.
And that ties in really nicely to what Kyle was saying earlier, right? If we've got parental involvement as the #1 indicator of success, we're now able to take teachers teaching from the front of the classroom and have them be mentors, stepping into places where our students may otherwise not have had that opportunity, that capability. You had something?
Hi, Kyle, Sean Smith.
Hi, Sean.
So how does this pertain to us, right? You guys are talking about very important 300,000-foot level concepts. So if I can just offer some things that I've experienced into 2 words, prompts and security. So if you say, like, I don't know how to use this, I don't know what to do, I hear these great outputs. So I didn't know what to do either, so I just jumped in. And I started to steal prompts from other people online. Think of like Cliff Notes. So if you have contacts in your industry that are using AI and there's certain prompts, instructions that you can give AI along with the information you're inputting, watch it work for you. So don't, in my experience, don't feel like you have to learn it all on your own because it's overwhelming. Steal from others. I'm dead serious, right? Because there are other people out there a lot smarter and a lot more talented than we are. Our company has no official AI platform, and I do 5 to 6 different things a day on it, and it makes me flat. So I have so many things working that I don't feel lazy, yet my output is increased. So you talked about what you do in that free time. I stopped doing 5 or 6 things in the background to
No, I think that's a great segue into the application question that I wanted to pose to Kyle, which is, how do smaller or mid-sized companies, often without a massive R&D budget, stay competitive in this fast-moving market and make sure we're understanding how to be prompt engineers?
So it's probably surprising, I am not into the term prompt engineering.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise. Because I think that is going to be a quickly, and this is a personal feeling, I think that's going to be a quickly outdated term, where you speak AI so you know how to derive a certain result, right? These models will continue to get smarter. They will continue to get more advanced. So I think that there's going to be less of a focus on the skill level of prompt engineering. But in general, I think one of the more powerful things that I like to kind of broaden the get out of ChatGPT, not because it's bad, but to get the head space out of large language models, is to realize that the step beyond chatting with a large language model is like AI workflows. An example. I'll give you an example of an automation. An example of an automation would be somebody comes to your website, they fill out a form, you get an email, right? Or an email and Slack message, maybe a text message. That's Boolean logic. If somebody does this, send it to me. We've been doing that for years, right? With AI workflows, if you have a higher volume website, what you can have happen is somebody comes to your website, they fill out the same information in the same form. That goes to a database. That database goes out and finds that person's LinkedIn, scrapes their LinkedIn. Goes out and finds their Instagram, scrapes it. Goes out and finds their Facebook, scrapes it. Goes out and finds where they live, scrapes it. They bounce that against your marketing team's ideal customer profile. And then what that system does is it routes it to the right individual and lets you know that on a scale from 1 to 10, this person is 7, red hot, you need to reach out to them right now. Or maybe they're a 3, like you could just kind of put this off. That is an AI workflow because there's an if-then statement with some sort of large language step in the middle. There's a lot of those wins that can happen right now. And I call those tier 1 automations. The reason why I call them tier 1 automations is because these are the micro tasks that can be implemented in a business with drag and drop tools. Like if you've heard of Zapier, they're going this direction. Make.com is another one. What's another one? N8N. So N8N, it's a little more technical. Mastra. These are all tools that allow you to build out those AI workflows. Now, when in conjunction with, I can't remember your name? Sean. And in conjunction with what Sean was saying, when you're talking about borrowing prompts from other individuals, marketers have been doing that for years. Right? So I can't remember the saying, but there's a saying about how you borrow other people's marketing and then you just tweak it a little bit so that way it looks like your own. And I think Einstein said something about that too, right? Like the secret to genius is not revealing your sources. Butchered it. Anyway, one of the more powerful things that you can do is set a standard operating procedure for yourself when you're chatting with these large language models, and get them to score things for you. So if you say, hey, I want a consistent output, put together a scoring system that says, you know what, I'm evaluating AI tools for my business as I'm putting together my AI governance and governance framework and policies. As we're evaluating whether we use 11 Labs or ChatGPT or Claude or Anthropic, or same thing, Gemini, whatever, we want to have an internal scorecard where we're looking at the security. We're looking at where do they store that data. We're looking at whether they have some sort of deletion service level agreement where if you message them and say, hey, delete all my prompts, they'll do it, and it's in their service level agreement. So you can go in and have some sort of scoring rubric as you're evaluating various things, and that can be your SOP. So when you go out and say, hey, I heard about this new AI tool. Here's our scoring rubric. Here's the website, go tell me what it scores. And it will come back with a score instead of some sort of like people pleasing, like, oh my gosh, you're brilliant, you found the pot of gold. Because that's what AI will do. I don't know what you asked. I blacked out. So
So back to what we were asking.
Yeah.
If you have a smaller mid-sized company without an R&D budget, how do you stay competitive in this fast-moving environment?
Focus on tier 1 AI opportunities. That's the message. So focus on the micro tasks. The easiest way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. That's how you're going to do it. There isn't a silver bullet right now. ChatGPT, the reason why you love it is because you get that dopamine rush, the same dopamine rush that you get when you're scrolling through Instagram and you think no one's watching you, but the AI is, right? So the thing to focus on is to figure out what are the things that you are copying and pasting data in between, and then how do you automate that? How do you focus on those little micro tasks and save yourself the 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week? And how do you build an AI stack where when you build those up, it's kind of like putting together a workout plan for yourself, is that you're going to see results in a few months, right? But if you sit here paralyzed waiting for some Y Combinator startup to come up with the magic bullet, you're going to be sitting on the sidelines and your competitors are going out eating that elephant one bite at a time. And you're going to be left in the dust.
Well, and that's why I love that you touched on that, because I've been blown away at how many of my colleagues across the state, well, and across the country, are banning AI utilization in their operation altogether because they don't know how to govern it, right? So you're going to fall behind, and I think a governance conversation, we were having some discussion before we approached the stage, so for anyone that wants to weigh in, talk to us about what that looks like. How do we stay ahead of that? How do we govern our own operations, recognizing that you have to tell your employees what they should or shouldn't be doing in this space to protect your data. It's very real. You have your AI bot that's in your meeting. Well, that goes to this etherical cloud, but ultimately it is public information at that juncture. So recommendations for business owners in the room or for employees working for businesses in the room, things that they need to be mindful of when they're integrating AI in their operations.
So when we work with businesses who want AI transformation, and this is a certain type of business, because scrappy entrepreneurial business owners typically don't want a strategy because there's a high likelihood that turns into a $20,000, $30,000 paperweight, right? So what they want is action. They want you to start showing value, okay? And the way to start when you are working with these medium-sized businesses that want a clear strategy is, we call it the AI stack ladder. And the bottom rung of that is AI policies. AI policies are those that when you're coming up with them, you need to first come up with a governance framework. That means putting together a council inside of your business where this is the governing body that is going to review the policies once a year. You're going to put together some sort of approval process so that way your employees feel empowered, because genuinely the person that is copying and pasting that data between systems, you probably don't know that as CEO, but you want to let them know that, hey, we're starting to embrace AI and we're going to do it safely, and here's the way that we're going to do it safely. But we want you to go out and find those tools and then score that, so that way you understand how we look at it, and then give it to your manager. And then your manager will give it to the board or whatever. And by the way, if we end up adopting it, you are the owner of that tool, which is a sense of ownership, a sense of pride, and it's a signal for management to say, this person actually cares, and this person is actually going the extra mile, and that we give them this added responsibility, right? So the policies themselves, once you have the governance all figured out, and this is a lot of workshopping to get to this point. When you're putting together the AI policies, you want to make sure that the policies are congruent with your company values. So if you are a cybersecurity company, you want to make sure that that you do some sort of security hardening test for every single AI tool that you bring into the business, and you have that policy in place, right? If you start willy-nilly adopting AI, and you're that security company, it starts to send a mixed message to your employees. And the inverse of that, if you're just ignoring it, which a lot of businesses are, you will find that your employees are bringing their own AI tools to work, which is incredibly dangerous because they're just innocently trying to just do less with AI. So that is that's something that's really important, in my opinion, is to make sure that the AI policies that you put together are congruent with your company values. And the outcome of the AI policy exercise is putting together a committee that knows that they're going to meet and they're going to cuss and discuss. And there's some sort of AI tool scorecard that is a weighted scorecard that you bounce every single AI tool against. So that way you can communicate that to the broader company.
Great. Yeah, I mean, if I were to ask how many of us have AI policy structure in our companies, right? How many hands would go up? Couple, three, 3, 4, 5. That's probably one of the most important points from this panel. So you've got organizations like Kyle's that can assist you through that. Our goal with the AI HI Hub is to provide that kind of guide. We have 45,000 small businesses in Lee County, 65,000 in Southwest Florida. 4 to 7 employees, they're not going to have governance structures, right? So how can we provide a way where they can be more familiar with what the risks are and provide them this kind of guidance? And that's the kind of content that an AI HI Hub can provide our local community. So, but yeah, I'm glad you're here, Kyle, because he's actually doing this for businesses, and it's mission critical. I mean, we can each get into some hot water if we don't have this kind of a governance structure built into our companies.
Thank you for that. So staying on the theme of governance and policy making, and not to lose sight of the people element of what we're talking about here as well, for anyone on the panel, what is one policy or mindset shift that could create the biggest difference in building a more inclusive economy? Yeah, are we seeing any kind of structural policy shifts, mindset shifts that are really going to...
Really, if you think about problem solving, design thinking, systems thinking, there's going to be so much innovation coming our way over the next 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, right? How can we get our teams to be able to have an innovation kind of a culture? As Kyle mentioned, there's so many tasks that can be improved, but how do we engage our employees to understand the design thinking process to be able to better contribute, right? So I believe that's one of the shifts we need to make. And again, we've got Thomas Edison, we've got the Edison Awards. We could be, and we should be, a key innovation hub. But how do we teach our businesses, our employees to have that kind of a mindset? And that's another challenge that we're working towards. If that helps.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback off of that as well.
To go along with what you're saying, along with innovation, we want to create more innovation if we can create more opportunities across the state. So that's something that the Chamber is constantly banging the doors from a policy perspective of making sure that our legislators know of the problems that are existing, so that way we can have consistent innovation and remove some of those barriers for economic mobility. And a lot of that, again, comes from our entrepreneurs. We want more people to have those opportunities to do more. So,
yeah, you know, the name of the game when it comes to AI is at the end, it helps you get things done faster, so it's speed. And I think from a policy standpoint, there needs to be, at the government level, there needs to be an ability to allow for that entrepreneurial speed that is like ingrained in entrepreneurs to occur, because you know the long sales cycles, the endless meetings, those things, like entrepreneurs just want to move the needle, right? We are problem solvers. So I think that from a policy standpoint, we have this new technology that is allowing us to get things done better, faster, cheaper than ever before. And there's this lagging of, I want to say, government or policy that is going to continue to lag. So there will need to be some sort of right sizing in order to get the business owners to fully participate in the sector. So, yeah, I would say speed is, and realizing that speed is the name of the game. So, policies need to be geared towards speed.
And adapting quickly, right? Cut the red tape and roll out the red carpet so our entrepreneurs can create solutions. So give us some specifics. What are some partnerships or initiatives that are giving you the most optimism right now about connecting talent with opportunity in meaningful ways?
Sure. Talent with opportunity in meaningful ways. So I mean, one of the global companies we've supported, and we're supporting another company in a similar way, is they're creating, they historically, it's a global cybersecurity company. They historically received their top talent from MIT, from Stanford, computer science graduates, right? But premium, everybody wants those. They decided a few years back to create their own pipeline, right? They looked for those that didn't have a computer science degree, but had an inclination towards computer science. They developed an assessment that could identify those people. They'd have 600 applicants for a cohort of 30, and they'd pick that 30. In a 4-month period, we assisted them in developing their computer science foundation that was tailored to that company, to their products, to their services. We had about 10 courses that we taught in that program. Every course had examples of how the company managed clients and services. So everything was extremely relevant. We included a capstone that was probably one of the most challenging problems that cybersecurity faced, and the students had to solve for it. During the 4-month period, managers were coming in, giving their perspective on working for the company and in their particular unit, but they're also meeting the students. By the end of the 4 months, and when they presented their capstone, they presented it to the CEO. By the end of the 4 months, 99% of them were hired, and these were like superstars. So folks that didn't have a computer science background, with that level of attention from the company, were superstars. We're beginning to see that more and more with how some companies are interacting with FGCU and FSW. And there are platforms now that can look at work-based learning and put it in a platform format. So there is some very great solutions that we can look at that put employers closer to the future workforce. And it helps the future workforce because now they've got relevant experiences that they can position out. I think the more we can get employers, before they're actually recruiting employees, get them in that pipeline, that's what's going to help us connect the dots even more. So
Excellent, thank you.
No, that's great. No, I love
I love hearing that. Rachel Ludwig, who is our VP of Workforce Development for the Florida Chamber, is so focused on connecting those dots as you're explaining, because it really, again, like we talked about earlier, that's where the opportunity is gonna take place. We've created a data hub, which kind of, so basically the hub, you can go on to our website. I don't have the actual URL memorized, excuse me, but I can certainly give it to you after. But you can access data and information that kind of shows what industries, what are the top 30 in-demand careers are. It's a tool that parents can use, educators can use it as well, but also students to kind of see as they're tracking what skills do I need in order to get the most, the best job. And as we know with our discussion tonight, the workforce is changing. So I know I have an 18-year-old daughter who wants to go into marketing. I will tell her about this conversation. But no, a lot of these fields, obviously, there are going to be some changes and adjustments. And so what do our young people, what do our parents, how do we guide them through this process? So love that you're doing that. The other partnership that we're working on, and these are for folks when we talk about prosperity. So it's not so much our higher learning folks, not always, but we have a partnership with Career Source as well as Hope Florida. And that partnership is really to help mitigate folks from feeling like they need to go into the system of care. Obviously we all read the news. We know that there are more limited funds than there were previously. And we can't, even though folks may be struggling, there aren't those incentives or that they can go out and just readily access. Plus, we know our nonprofits are seeing some of the burdens of some of costs. So what Hope Florida does is CareerSource and the Hope Florida partnership along with the Florida Chamber, it helps put people who want a job, who are in need of a job. So when we talk about those kiddos, the 714,000 kids that are in poverty, we know that they're parents that need opportunity. So the goal is to get those folks, get those parents in a job, whether they need to be upskilled or they're just needing a job for the interim. And that partnership is really starting to take shape. We have Hope Florida employers across the state. And so that is something that we see from a prosperity initiative that's been very positive. So.
Any specific thoughts?
Yeah, so at Strata 52, we proactively we realize that that subject matter expertise is paramount. As you're going out and you're consulting for, or you're adding, you are providing this service to the market, right? And one of the companies that we've joint ventured with is Global Trade and Investment Group. Marcos is representing them, Blue Waters, and they have tons of expertise in government. We don't have that expertise, but we realize that there is a lot of problems that we would love to solve. It's just sometimes the scrappy entrepreneur that loves to catch snook on the weekends is probably not the best fit to move the needle in government. So for us, the thing that we bring, or the asset that we bring, is the real world experience in the SMB world, and then we can sponge off of the government knowledge that this group has in order for us to create a JV that makes us really impactful. So that way we don't have to sit through meetings asking a whole bunch of questions about so this goes here, and then this does this, and then we do what, and then I just would end up getting, my team would end up getting frustrated. So joint venturing with groups who have that subject matter expertise has been really important. And I do want to kind of bring it a little more full circle. When we talked about resilience at the very beginning, and I said that the fuel for resilience is love, right? And I stick to that. And I think that this is pertinent because when you think about maybe your life or people that you know in their lives where they love what they do, but maybe they're a little unsatisfied, right? We're just yearning for something more. There's an incredible opportunity right now for you to take that subject matter expertise, whether you're a nurse and you've been a nurse for 10 years and you want to go out and get into this AI data thing, go out and take some sort of certification course and get certified in data science, who knows? And then go out and find a job that will pay you $50,000 a year more, and you will be sitting next to that PhD from Harvard that doesn't know where you keep the scalpels. And you are going to be more valuable. Because sure, they know more about math theory than you, but what you know is actually how the business operates. And that is something that is important, because when we do think about resilience, at least my perspective is that you will get transformation when it's fueled by love. If you have somebody that loves what they do, or the SME-ness that they've built in their life, and then there's just something missing, go out and explore AI a little bit. And if you feel that draw towards AI, lean into that, because you're going to be incredibly marketable, and you're going to be incredibly impactful and transformational.
Thank you for that. So we're nearing the end of our time, and right after this, we're going to have opportunities for you to interact with our panelists, make sure all your questions get answered. So we're going to do our last two kind of summary questions to wrap it all up. If you could fast forward to the year 2030, what does success look like for Florida's workforce, and what will it take for us to get there? I mean, Christina, I feel like you have a plan 2030, so you might want to start.
Are you guys good with that?
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you lead us in
All
that?
right, I will try to make this very simple. No, really, the goal is if we have 100% of kiddos are kindergarten ready, that's part of our 2030 goals, and that we have less than, 50% less of children in poverty. So we feel like that's an attainable goal. Again, it's about folks like you being in this room, having these discussions, talking about innovation, opportunity in the workforce, and just, again, we talk about that resilience. It takes all of us to move the needle and to see change, and so those are two very specific goals that I work for towards every day. So thank you so much, and great questions.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit about this, but like Bain & Company, they look at impact/disruption of AI in terms of optimization, transformation, and then reinvention, right? And optimization, right? What kind of repetitive tasks can we move to AI, that kind of stuff. I would like us to see more of our businesses and industries well beyond optimization, moving into transformation, and then maybe having a view of certain industries that can look at how do they reinvent themselves. I'd also like us to move up on that, that report where we ranked 5 in emerging, and we're further up, right? The Brookings Institute report. And lastly, I'd like to see that we have a fully operational AI/HI hub that is supporting our local businesses, our government sector, our higher ed sector, as well as nonprofits. I think if we could accomplish that, and I think it's within reach, man, the next 5 years are going to be fun.
Kyle?
For me, it would be solving the churn problem. That would be a massive success, I think. The other one is hopefully by then we have attracted. Right now, there's pockets of startups that are really starting to gain a lot of steam in the region. There's Naples Tech meetups that are, hundreds of people are showing up to these things. And there's one in Sarasota that does a monthly meetup, and hundreds of people are showing up. And what's happening is people are coming out of the woodwork that are individuals, and maybe it's a beach town symptom, is that they're coming out of the woodwork, and it's like, oh yeah, I used to be the, COO of blah, blah, blah. And it's like, where have you been? Well, I moved here during COVID. Well, you've been just sitting in your mansion this entire time? Like, come on. So there's a lot of that. And those individuals are coming out, and they're wanting to build. And now, because of AI, the barrier to entry when it comes to software engineering has never been lower, and it's going to continue getting lower and lower and lower. So I see a future where there are continued pockets of builders like you that have a dream and have the capacity to actually take that vision and then bring it to reality, which is step one. And then step two is go to market. And both of those are a struggle. And I think that that there will need to be an attraction of capital that is willing to participate in Silicon Valley-esque markets. And while we all can agree that there's a lot of wealth in the region, access to capital, and it's not philanthropic, but the mindset of knowing that this one might be a lottery ticket, this one might be some fun that I tell my friends at the golf club about, right? That culture, I hope, blossoms by 2030, because I think that there's a capacity to live in a region where innovation is something that is ingrained in the culture, just like pub subs are on the beach, right? And there's that interesting intersection of being able to live that like work-life balance of being able to, go out and it's 70 degrees out and we can go catch that snook and just spend $8 on a dozen shrimp, right? So there is an interesting, there's a really special environment that we live in, and I think that would be even more special if we were able to do that while we're building our future or building our dreams, like many of us are. So the attraction of capital is essential to that.
Appreciate that. Can you join me in a round of applause for our panelists?
This puts us in the lead so bad. My foot is like so.
So to close this out this evening, I want to say thank you to our panelists for sharing your expertise, your passion for what's possible when we invest in people, innovation, and collaboration. What we heard tonight reinforces something very powerful. Florida's future of work is not being left to chance. It's being built every day by leaders like these, our educators, our employers, willing to think differently, act boldly, and adapt together. So as we move forward, the word resilience will continue to guide us. It's not just about bouncing back from disruption, but it's planning forward with creativity, purpose, and a shared responsibility for the prosperity of all Floridians. In my role with the Greater Naples Chamber, I get to see the incredible potential that emerges when communities unite around a shared vision, one where every student, worker, and business has the opportunity to thrive. And tonight, it reminds us that when we align education, innovation, and collaboration, that vision can become a reality, and that's why supporting the work that is being done here at the Collaboratory is so critically important. So on behalf of the Edison Awards Lightbulb Series, the team here at the Collaboratory, thank you for being part of this conversation and for continuing to champion resilience at work and in our communities. We hope you have a wonderful evening, and let's keep that lightbulb moment going long after tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, good job, you guys.
Sure.